Hi, I'm John Cranton. Welcome to your NFL football preview. We're going to look at the AFC South today, 2012 AFC South. And, one of the themes in America during this presidential election race has been inequality. You got a few haves and a lot of have-nots. Well, that's kind of what the AFC South is like. You got one have in the Houston Texans, who are big favorites to win the division title again. And then you got a lot of chumps in this division. We'll start with the Houston Texans. Their over-under win projection is 10 wins. Well, that's just what they were last year, 10 wins and 6 losses. However, they were a pretty good all-around team despite a ton of injuries. They outscored opponents by 103 points, and that was third best in the AFC, sixth best overall. They also had the first playoff appearance in franchise history. The Texans boasted the second best rushing offense in 2011, 153 yards per game, and they return running backs Arian Foster with over 1,200 yards and Ben Tate with 942 yards. So the running game is going to be great. The passing game was 18th overall. Ton of injuries, though, to wide receiver and Matt Schaub. They're both back and at this point are healthy, but they're both 31 years old. Schaub just 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last year. And the key really is Andre Johnson, but he's had injuries the last 2 years. Of a possible 33 games played the last 2 years, he's only played in 20 of them. So he's kind of the linchpin for this passing attack. And Schaub, despite injuries last year, remember he was a Pro Bowler back in 2010. Biggest question mark for the offseason, though, to keep in mind, is the offensive line for Houston, as they lost right tackle and the right guard positions, replacing Eric Winston and Mike Brazil. Now, the Houston did have a dominant defense under first-year defensive coordinator Wade Phillips. They were third against the pass, fourth against the run. They do lose big Mario Williams to the Bills in free agency, but he only played in 5 games last year because of injuries, and they lost linebacker D'Amico Ryans. Now, to fill the void on the defensive line, the Texans selected Whitney Mercilus out of Illinois in April's draft. He was a first-round pick. Plus, they have on the line Connor Barwin, 11.5 sacks, and defensive end J.J. Watt, who was an absolute beast last year. Still plenty of talent on this defense. Schedule is tough for the Houston Texans, though. October, they play the Jets, Packers, and Ravens. And later on in the season, they have a 3-game road trip at Detroit, at Tennessee, and at the Patriots. You combine that schedule with the possible injuries, I will not be looking at the Texans over the total. Also, keep in mind, with that great defense and running game, Texans were 11-5-1 under the total. Wouldn't be surprised to see that trend continue. And there's the Tennessee Titans. They were over-under win projected at 7. They had 9 wins last season. How did they do it? Well, they weren't that impressive overall. Passing game was pretty good, 12th in passing, 31st in rushing. They won 3 games down the stretch by exact 23-17 count. And then in the finale, they had a 1-point win over Houston. Still, they played hard for Coach Mike Munchak, who loves a rough, physical team. Have to believe the passing offense, though, is going to be pretty good. Quarterback Matt Hasselbeck is back, 18 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. They also have Jake Locker in the wings. He wasn't a starter, but did throw for 542 yards, so it's not a bad combination. And the passing game looks pretty good. You got wide receiver Nate Washington. He had over 1,000 yards, and the return of Kenny Britt, really the star player who was out most of last season with an injury. And you got to believe the ground game is going to be better. They were a disaster last year. 26-year-old running back Chris Johnson, stud back, but he had a terrible first half of the season involved with that contract and a holdout. I got to believe he's going to be better. And still, he finished with just over 1,000 yards rushing. Plus, the offense adds speedy wide receiver Kendall Wright, from Baylor. And he was the 20th pick in the draft. Now, the Tennessee defense, 14th overall in pass defense, 24th against the run with no rushing attack, no pass rush. Doesn't look like a very good defense. They also lost Cortland Finnegan. That's really going to hurt this secondary. Not much to get excited about. They add linebacker Zach Brown from North Carolina and defensive end Cameron Wembley. Really, this is a rebuilding defense, probably going to be very weak again. Schedule is moderate. The first 3 games of the season, actually first 4 games, are brutal. They play the Patriots, at San Diego, the Detroit Lions, and at Houston. So if you're looking at the Tennessee Titans to get over 7 wins. Well, it's a team that probably might start 0-4. Later in the year, they play Pittsburgh, at Buffalo, at the Packers, and even a home game against the Jets. So it's a very tough schedule. Keep in mind the Tennessee Titans bring in an 8-2 run under the total into the new season, as well as 0-4 against the spread. And you get the Jaguars, 5.5 wins is their projected win total, a 5-11 record last season. The Jacksonville Jaguars, are they still down in Jacksonville? Heck, are they still even in the NFL? This is a team that for the last few years really has been consistent. You can count on them to play pretty hard at home, which they did last year with a 4-4 record. But boy, just abysmal on the road, a 1-7 record. That's been their modus operandi for a while. And this offense just looks atrocious. Dead last in passing, 12th in rushing. You really can't be one-dimensional in today's NFL, especially if you can't pass the football, and that's the problem with the Jaguars. They averaged a ridiculous 136 yards passing per game. They went with rookie quarterback Blaine Gabbert. He's back again. 12 touchdowns, 11 interceptions as a rookie, just 50.8% pass completion, and they brought in Chad Henne as the backup. Neither of those very impressive. Opponents showed that they can stack the line to stop the run with Maurice Jones-Drew. That's going to happen again. And Jones had over 1,600 yards rushing, but boy, they're going to have to find a way to stretch the passing game. It doesn't look like they would. They have added some pieces, though. They moved up to take Oklahoma State wide receiver Justin Blackmon, but you have to wonder about the kid's focus, work ethic, and discipline. And then they overpaid for 27-year-old wide receiver Laurent Robinson. He had kind of a breakout year with the Dallas Cowboys, but still just 858 yards. Not very impressive. Can't see this Jaguars passing game really improving very much at all. Defense was young and tough, 8th against the pass, 9th against the run. However, Jaguars faced a lot of bad offenses last year, and look what happens when they stepped up. They played the Chargers, they got destroyed 38-14. They played the Falcons, they got killed 41-14, and even the Jets stuck it to them 32-3. Overall, Jacksonville 11-5 under the total. Wouldn't be surprised to see that trend continue with no passing game and an above-average defense. Then there's the Indianapolis Colts. 5.5 wins is their projected total. This team was just 2-14 last year, outscored by minus 187 points. That was worse than the AFC, but it was not worse than the NFL, believe it or not. That was actually third worst. The Rams and the Buccaneers were worst. Colts were also 0-8 on the road. They need some luck to get better. Well, they did get Andrew Luck in the first overall pick in the draft, and they plucked his top tight end at Stanford, tight end Toby Fleener. So they have a nice building block on offense, but boy, there's a lot of holes on this team. The Colts cut a ton of veteran talent, including tight end Dallas Clark, safety Melvin Bullitt, linebacker Gary Brackett, wide receiver Pierre Garçon. He left as a free agent. And wide receiver Reggie Wayne and defensive end Robert Mathis are back, but still there's a lot of missing pieces, particularly Garçon, who he really bloated this offense as they don't have anybody to stretch the field. And then there's the offensive line, which really should be the biggest concern for the Colts. They lost longtime center Jeff Saturday and tackle Ryan Diem, and they really haven't had any running game for a while. And even when Peyton Manning was in there, and while Manning was good at running away from on-rushing linemen, now you got a rookie quarterback in Luck back there. Boy, he could have a very difficult time struggling behind what looks like a below-average offensive line. They also have a new coach in Chuck Pagano. He was the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, but the players that are left on the defensive side of the ball really don't fit Pagano's style, so there's a lot of concern because they went to rebuild the offense in the draft, but they really negated the defense. They do return Gerard Powers, but really there's not much left in the secondary, so I definitely wouldn't be going over 5.5 wins for the Colts, and they're going to have to get those wins early because they play Bears, Vikings, and Jaguars to open the season, and then the bye week, and after that the schedule is much tougher. Keep in mind the Colts on an 8-1 run under the total. That might continue too, as there could be some offensive struggles. All right, that does it with this preview. Good luck with the games, and look for more NFL and college previews right here at JimFice.tv.